Hey everybody, Dungeon Printer here. Doing something a little bit different today. We're going to go over a tool that was just released called TaleSpire. Some of you might have heard about this in the 3D printing world because it's basically a video game version of laying down D&D dungeon tiles. There's a bunch of cool interactions, characters, a lot of, this is just the beta, so there's, as you can see here, there's a lot of stuff that is not included yet. But since early access / beta just started yesterday, I wanted to hop in and kind of show you guys around a little bit so you can decide if it's something you want to support in the future. Something like this I think is going to be a good alternative to, say, a place like Roll20 or Fantasy Grounds, whereas you're kind of stuck on a 2D map with 2D tokens in those spaces. There have been some people who've been brave enough to try doing like Tabletop Simulator for D&D things online, but there hasn't really ever been a good tool for building worlds and playing online in a 3D kind of way. So the people at BouncyRock have done is come up with a completely new system. As you can see here, coming up soon, we can lay tiles, you can put monsters down, there are going to be interactions for cutscenes, just building in general, a lot of creativity. But the cool thing that I like about it is it all resembles actual tiles. It's not stylized, it's not a game, with super high-end graphics and animations. It's meant to look like you're playing D&D on a tabletop. So as you see here, the initial disclaimer, here be dragons. The beta is for testing. There will be a lot of bugs, performance issues, and feature changes. Doesn't represent the early access release. Be warned. Luckily, we are all brave adventurers, and we are happy to go inside and mess around with this. Obviously, there's a changelog here, news, since it's very important for beta. They want to take your bugs. They want to get everything squashed as good as possible. But over here we have our campaigns, and this is where we're actually going to be building stuff. I've kind of played around a little bit with some things here to start with, and you can also join people's campaigns. So if multiple people own TaleSpire, I, as the DM, can make a space for everybody and invite them to it so that they can play while we interact with this 3D D&D environment. So first thing I'm going to do is just go into the castle courtyard that I just created here just a moment ago. There's nothing in it yet, but let's hop in. Now the first and most important thing is you've got your build mode right here, and that's what opens up everything that is available to you. And this is where we're going to start laying down tiles. You can see we got a nice little hotbar down here for favorites, a basic menu. Showing you who you are. Obviously right now we're the game master. We can switch it to a player view, and this will be important for if we have hidden monsters or things that we want to see what it looks like from the player's view. And people who've played around with Roll20 kind of know what the GM view is versus the player view as well. On the left we have our boards, we have our campaign settings, and we have atmosphere settings. Create a new board. That would give us a blank slate to start working from. And now we're in Unknown Realm 2, which we could modify and change the name of. Not Cattle. Here we go, Castle Courtyard. And we're going to take a look at some of the tools here and see if we can make a cool looking castle courtyard. It's a nice place for an encounter for our players. Obviously, the first thing we want to probably do is lay down some terrain to build everything on. There's two options for this. There's a nature tab that has a whole bunch of different options: lush grass, grassy roads, a T intersection kind of thing, sparse. And then there's also this foam setting, which right now the only option is the 8x8 piece of foam, which is, if you were building something by yourself, this is kind of where your foam boards that you would put down, and then you would place your tokens and scatter terrain on top of it. So if you want quick and easy, this is the easiest way to go. If you want to go a little bit more actual formal, which I think we're going to do, let's grab some sparse grass, and let's start with a 20 by 20 section of it here. As far as hotkeys go, not everything is listed here. I was able to find out a few on my own. WASD moves the camera around, or you can right click as well. The Q and E will actually rotate for you. The middle mouse click will do that as well. Scrolling the mouse wheel zooms you in and out. And double clicking anywhere will zoom you to that point. Now, one thing I found that's a little difficult so far, and I don't know if this is going to get better or not, is selection's a little weird. You can't just click or right click on something. If you want to select a specific tile, you hold down Shift and then mouse over it, and you can see it's kind of jumping up here. So for instance, I wanted to grab one of these tiles out of the middle here. I could grab it with Shift. Now another thing that does is lets us clone it as well. So if I'm holding down Shift, I can drop it wherever I want and it'll keep that tile intact. Oops, turn on the spotlight. Can't remember there it was. That's F. If you want to highlight something for your players, you can use F. While you have something selected, a simple right click will make it go away. So if you want to quickly delete out a section of things, you can do that. But we are going to go ahead and drop this stuff back in, keep our courtyard open. Now there are a couple of options for castles. We've got castle and castle ruins. We also have this Morgoth, which is kind of a dilapidated option here. It's a little bit more, I guess, less colorful version of things. So those are options as well. But we are going to go, actually, why don't we go with castle ruins and see what we can make. Maybe we can do like a ruined courtyard here and have a fun encounter that way. All right. While we have, so it's easy to grab things from over here. You don't just grab and drag. It doesn't do anything. You have to click on the thing and then bring it over. While you have it selected, clicking the middle mouse wheel will rotate it around for you. Right now, I believe that you can only do 90-degree turns. Hopefully in the future there's a way to turn things more specifically so you can get a little bit more crazy with stuff. But as you can see here, there's a lot of different options. There's stair boxes for raising things up. Got a bunch of different kinds of walls, some with floors attached, some without floors attached. So what we're going to do is, if this is the courtyard, let's put up a stair box here to start. Because then we can go and grab the actual stairs, put them there. And I don't think that, let's see, castle floor. So in this case, we've got tiles that are down here already. So what we're going to do, like I said, shift right click, and we can take out all of the stuff here. You can also grab entire chunks of things. Control C will automatically copy and let you drag things over. Otherwise, Control X lets you cut, which will remove it from where it was. Give you some options there. All right, so let's just drop a few of these randomly in there. Throw in a couple different versions of it. You've got 1x1s, 2x2s. Nothing quite bigger than that I've seen so far. I think they intend for you to build it, but hopefully there are some, bigger options, 6x6, 8x8s in the future, so you can have cool, some with cool designs and stuff. And I have heard, talking with other people who've backed this and looking at the FAQs and what the devs have been saying, It does sound like there is going to be an option in the future for uploading your own 3D assets in some way. How in-depth that's going to be, I'm not quite sure yet. But for all you people out there who are 3D printers, there might be a way for you to potentially upload your STL files and use the monsters that you get from any of your Kickstarters that you follow, and paint them up digitally and then have them be the monsters in your campaign. Again, I don't know how crazy they're going to go with this kind of thing, but it does lead to some interesting thoughts for sure. Okay, so we got. It looks like it's just that's a 1x1, that's a 1x1, so we got some 2x2s. So I'm just gonna, like I said, I'm gonna drop these in there, do a little bit of variation to try and get some different looks here. Again, we have the option of stacking things on top of each other. If in the future they have more options for foam and stuff like that, I believe they've been talking about having foam to raise things up and giving you more altered terrain as well. These stairs are not very steep. Again, this is just beta, so I'm hoping that in the future we can have more than just 1x1 and 2x2 tiles, because in a case like this, it'd be really nice to have a staircase that actually has a little bit more thickness to it, I guess. We could try building one of those manually by just laying things on top of each other, but then it would end up being more of a thing where we go. Something more like this, where we're actually building out ourselves. Another thing I would really like to see is maybe a randomization when I'm placing down tiles, so that each tile is not exactly the same. It would be really lovely to be able to just select something and hit a button and just randomly rotate these tiles to be different, so that it doesn't look exactly the same. But for these, as I said, we can just kind of keep building up as we would. If you wanted to do an altar of some kind, we would be able to potentially do that. Grab some singles. Drop them down. Make some sort of altar with different versions of it. I think stairs like this work better for games too, because when you actually go into characters and you have, you have a hero of some kind. We're gonna move it over here instead. You've got a cleric who's looking at stairs like this. Like, this doesn't even look like stairs. They're so thin. But if I were to drop over, on the other hand, if I look at my dwarf here, he's pretty tiny, but each stair would then allow him to place, as far as combat is concerned, place himself on one of these tiles and have combat happen right on the stairs. But we're just going to go with what we have for now and see what we come up with. All right, so let's go back into our tiles and do our castle ruins. And I think we're going to drop down a couple of these stair boxes just to make this easier. Make sure everything's raised up. And give it that kind of cobblestone look on the front of it. Oops. That's another thing that's a little weird in the beta right now is snapping. You can snap to, as you can see here, since I've got tiles that are up tall, if I place one there, or if I place one here, it snaps to wherever the tile was. So if you're trying to place things in, for example, if I wanted to place something in here, there are different ways that it'll snap to everything, right? Like this is the normal way down here, or if I do it off a little bit, then it's kind of a half step, or it'll drop down on top. So if you can see here, just trying to place into this little crevice here, I've got 3 different layer heights. So it's something to watch out for. It takes a little bit of manipulation to get it all figured out, but you can pretty easily, as long as you're just watching the dotted lines and centered in there, you can find out what you need. All right, so since we've got these ones down, like I said, the easy way is to just copy and pasta over here. And then we can take our 2x2s, put them across, and there. So what we're going to do now, since we have the level set up properly, we're going to grab all of that and give ourselves a little bit of space here. Now I don't want to go into this and make a whole big actual castle right now, so we're just giving ourselves a little bit of room because we're going to be mainly working down here in the courtyard. But we do want some spots up here for scenery and that kind of stuff. So now we have a couple different options. We got a bunch of these arches here that would work really well for, say, an old doorway. A couple options for that. So what I'm going to try and do here is give us a couple pillars first to start. Just to get a little bit of that look started. Now we do have the option for building onto our pillars with additional pillars. As you can see, it's all, like, a lot of the stuff is very, very modular. The only thing I would recommend is, again, just watch out for keeping things a little bit more, diverse by switching things around. It's not a big deal by any means. So what we're going to do is just give each of these a little bit of different height to kind of make it look, I guess I should have done it the other way here. Let's kill a couple of these. Let's build the height. One more here. Oops. One more here. And do a couple more here just to give ourselves a little bit of variation. Again, there's some weird stuff with clipping, but it's beta and it will be fixed. And what we're going to do with these pillars here is I think we're going to try, we can actually say that this one's a solid one, has not ruined itself yet. Whereas this one here, we can have a chunk of it laying on the ground. Again, this would be cool if we had a way that we could rotate an object a little bit more. And maybe that exists, maybe I don't know about it yet. But from what I can see, it does not currently exist. So I'm just going to lay it on the ground here. But let's get one more on either of these, just for some fun. Let's see what looks like with these arches up here. Try and make it look like a big doorway. I don't know. I haven't really looked at these assets yet, so it's hard for me to see. I wonder if we could take one of these 1x1 floor tiles, for example. If we could, that's unfortunate. That the side of the floor shows through like that. All right. Let's try something different. Let's use our stairs. Our stair box. All right, we're gonna have to get a little creative here until more assets exist. We have to get a little more creative, but the good news is there are a lot of different creative things you can do. For example, these are corner walls here. So these could be the basis of our pillars as well. So let's take a stair box, drop it. Let's grab some corner walls here. Let's use that inside. So inside looks nice. And then we can take our arch, put it on there. Now it kind of gets the feel of what would have been a very massive doorway. Again, this is a little bit off. Maybe let's get a snake oil salesman here. So one thing might be nice is to have a character for scale. This is a pretty massive door for these kind of characters. So maybe maybe we can get rid of some of this stuff here and just build it without those stair boxes. Make it a little more realistic that way. There we go. It's pretty nice. Yeah, so we can do something like that. It's not the most beautiful thing in the world, but you know, it gives a little bit of an illusion anyway. We can fill in that hole with, you know, now it looks like we had, maybe this used to be an old, you know, hatch or whatever. Now, obviously, we don't have doors that are this big. Another thing I would really like to see in the future is the ability to scale some things. If you go over to the doors, even the massive, you know, double doors for dungeons are actually relatively small. So having a sense of scale here would be a little bit better. We do have a portcullis, and the good thing is that we were smart enough to make our make 8 squares, or four squares in between here. So if we were to drop a double portcullis down, it would actually fit and work. Now the downside is there is no portcullis to build upon here. There's only spikes at the bottom, so we would have to, you know, lose a little bit of our immersion and have a double spike set of portcullises. But options do exist. They just are not quite where a more creative mind would need them to be at the moment. So what we're going to do instead is see if we can't take out Now, what would be really great, because as you can see, I'm struggling to get this exactly where I want it to be. This is definitely a struggle. So what would be really great is a way to be able to select something and then just straight up move it up and down instead of having it snap to something. So as you can see here, I would really like to be able to grab this and move it in more, even if it is clipping into some of this stuff. But I understand that there are limitations with everything at the moment. For now, that looks all right. Let's see what we got here. If we go every 2. And again, we can just kind of go in here randomly and place a few pillars up and make them a couple that are actually full size. How many do we have here? 7 sections. Now, I have not looked into any of the props. I don't know. What would be really cool is if we had a nice, like, dilapidated carpet of some kind. But I do not see that. There's some cool statues that we can place here, though. So we can kind of mirror the pillar placement of some of these old heroes of a time long ago. That looks good. Number of options. We could even put a sarcophagus here and have this be a temple for the burial site for an old forgotten king. Can make this an undead encounter if we want to. The other option here is just putting a stone throne or two over here in the end. I actually kind of like the idea of making this more of a burial site. So what we're going to do is put our fallen hero here, and we are going to surround him with his guardians as he continues his journey into the afterlife. We are also going to station some guards leading up to it. Let's kind of create a sense, a little bit of an ominous sense of the importance of this person. Although, I do not like the idea of them. There we go. In order to make this a little more realistic with our old portcullis here as well, we could kill all these pillars that are here and do some walls instead. Lots of cool options here. No rugs, unfortunately. It's like a bearskin rug, but no, you know, long cloth rugs that you would see in a royal chamber. But that's fine. So what we're going to do is go back to our castle ruins and find some of our walls. Castle ruins wall. Now again, for a builder, what would be really great is to have walls where you could build them on top of each other a little bit better than this. Because right now, if we try to build on top of each other, it's kind of obvious because of the way that these are designed to have this rampart type look to them. It's not going to completely break anyone's immersion by any means, but it would be, for pretty much anything, it would be good to have a tool to build it up that had a good front face. Alright, so what this did here, this one actually has some floor attached to it. It gives it a little bit extra height. I've noticed in some of the other, for example, here's a Castle Ruins wall, but then here's a Castle Ruins wall with a base that makes it a little taller. And then that is for if you're putting it along the edge of these tiles, for example. That's the difference between those two. But in this case, I'm going to have this on here because I kind of like the staggered look of this. Let's get rid of my pillars over here as well. As you can see, we're changing it up a little bit here. Trying to keep this a little bit fun, uniform. I'm just going to put another whole one over here because not both sides wouldn't be completely destroyed. Put a couple of these going around in here. So maybe what would be a good idea is doing more of a layout first before fully committing to making your pillars look realistic. But hey. Alright, feeling better about this. Now we can take some of our walls and fill in over here. It doesn't have to be perfect. Just want to get the illusion that it goes back further than it does. I'm not sure why these are doing what they're doing, but it looked to me as if my square was where it needed to be. I would really like to see some half-height walls as well. So then you can have some more fun with building things on top of each other. What I'm just trying to do here is give the illusion that, you know, this was once a full building. And that it is crumbled down to be a mere fraction of what it used to be. You know, a tomb of some kind. I want to try something here. Wall looks like in front of this. Looks better than this weird front-facing thing, but again, I think that's... I'm just trying to hide how that looks, then that might be a decent way of doing that. That way it kind of has all that same brick look to it, without, you know, all of this weird stuff in here from seeing the sides of tiles. But get creative. There are a lot of things that you can use to, just like if you were building normal terrain, to kind of build upon everything that's there. We can even go and see what it looks like to. What do you got here? It's like a wall, tiny little wall with a base, so we could potentially build those up as well. I actually don't like how that looks. Let's see how our stair box would look down here. Stair box does not let me put it back, tucked in that little corner there, so that's unfortunate. So that's good for now. So what we could do here as well is potentially have this be more of a raised path to make our staircase not as abrasive. And if we wanted to, we could then selectively pull out a couple tiles. Again, this would be so much nicer if it were caps, so we didn't have, you know, a giant 2-foot crevice if we want to just put a hole in this pathway here. So for now, let's just do it that way. Let's see if we can use the snapping to make a little fake staircase here. So what I'm trying to do is snap halfway between these two things here. As we're just gonna make this all cobblestone here. Whoop. So what we have now is we're going to put you there, you up there. What I'm going to do now is just kind of selectively go through and place these broken cobblestone pieces to give a little bit of diversity. Yeah, so we got a few instances of keeping it so it's not quite where it looks all completely uniform. I think we can do a little more with this pathway here too. So I'm going to kill all of this grass, try and replicate this stair landing. All right. Now, the easiest way to do this, what should be the easiest way to do this, would be for me to just take a selection tool and literally grab all of this and flip it around. But we have to do it somewhat selectively because I also grabbed the grass that was over there. I'm gonna have to modify this a little bit because I didn't flip it the normal way. But I think it's easier than just laying all those tiles again. So then shoot, let's see, that's right. These are not right. That's interesting. So you got a visual bug going on here, that's why it's a little bit weird. Because these are supposed to be these, but they're showing up as grass. That's why everything looks so weird. So it gives us a little bit more of a grand entrance to this little tomb area here. It uses our own fake stairs instead of trying to have these stairs here. The problem with these again is when you're putting a character on them. This is technically a 5-foot space here. It's just a little weird to have in place like that. But to each their own. If you like it, it's fine. Alright, we could have these pillars extend all the way down here as well, if we want to kind of have more of a cool entrance to this place. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Pretty good. Alright, so let's go back into nature. Take a look at some of our other options here. We got some boulders. Got cliff faces that we can drop down in here. Trees. A stackable pine top, so we'll be good. Line the side of this, kind of mirror these pillars. Some pine trees. You know what? If we're going to do an undead encounter here, let's take some of the life out of this area and put a couple of dead trees in. Alright, so not really great options for grass at the moment if we want something a little bit more dead. But this will work here. I would really love to see some things like, wrought iron fence and stuff that we could further fence off this area. We could go back and use some of these stone walls. We want to just give that illusion of like a graveyard type area. There are downsides to things like this, as they don't always snap together perfectly how you want. So in this case we would have to, I don't know what we'd have to do here. We'd have to use this corner, I guess, instead. Doesn't fit perfectly, but let's see what this one looks like. This one just is even worse. Why wouldn't that connect together? Now I think one of the downsides to the current beta setup is, as you can see, this is a 1x2 wall here, whereas this could easily be a a half by 2, and we'd be able to place it here, or even one of 3 places to really make sure that it connects where it needs to. But in the current setup, this is a 1x2 and this is a 2x2, and it has a place that it sits within its plane there. So I'd love to see some way that we could adjust the spacing of this within its box. And again, this might even be a bug too, because if we look at it, it's outside of its box on the left side here. Maybe it's supposed to be over more, and then that would connect fine. So hard to tell for sure, being in the beta state that it is. But it sure thinks. So what we're going to do instead, let's see what this looks like if we, yeah, not great. Let's just, anyway, it doesn't have to be perfect, obviously. So what we're going to do is just fill in sides, just give the illusion of it, and we don't have to have anything up front here. This can just be where our heroes enter. It's cool that there are little interaction stuff, but the way that we have this set up, it doesn't really do anything for us, unfortunately. If we were to make this a normal entryway, we could trap our players on the inside there, but I think it looks cooler with a bigger door, so is what it is. All right, let's take a look at some of our props now. See if there's anything else we want to add in here. A lot of the stuff, got some bone piles. That's kind of interesting. If we wanted to do a skeleton encounter, we just have a few piles of bones laying around in various spots, have those be what spring up and attack the adventurers. Let's take a look at the creatures here for a second. Undead. We do have skeleton archers, a skeleton lord, which is perfect for this encounter, some slashers and spearmen. So let's take a look at some of these here real quick. There we go. Tokens look really good. I'm impressed with them so far. Only seen a few of them. This is less of a lord than I was hoping for. It looks more like a bard / caster of some kind. We could also just do, we've got spirits here. Got a ghost. That's a little bit more of a king. He doesn't necessarily have to be a lich just because that's what the thing says. So what we can do is, this here is going to be my group. I'm going to put him right on top of the sarcophagus. And so as a GM, I've got this GM tools here. I can rename it. I don't know what make unique is. I think there's a unique monster, unique creatures up here. If you want this to be your big bad evil guy, just So rename, instead of Fiery Lich, we're going to put Forgotten King. If we want to build out his stats, we can put them here. The stat thing's kind of broken, should be not be two of them here. Or I think that's just overlapping the HP marker that's down there. We can give him HP. So this guy's got, 100 max HP. Let's give him 100 out of 100. This is all just hearsay. I'm not actually building an encounter here, but... And then the last thing we're going to do is hide him. So we, as the GM, would be able to see him in our view. I think that there would hopefully be a better indication. Theoretically, this guy should still be available for us in, since we're in GM mode, we should be able to see him. Instead of him just being hidden here. I have no idea if he's even there or not. Alright, well, for the sake of this, since we are not actually using it for anything, let's just put him back down here. Twist him around quick. Give him his HPs. Rename him. Forgotten King. And just for experimentation, let's make him unique. So if we go into our unique characters now, this used to be empty, we do have our Forgotten King now, so we can bring him back anytime with the stats and everything that we've selected. Back to our props, get our bone piles. Once everything is fixed, you could essentially have these be visible. You could go into your creatures, find your undead, get your archer, and place it literally on top of the bone pile. Have it be hidden. And when the time comes to trigger your event, have the tokens appear as if they're building themselves up from the bone piles. It would be a little more difficult if we were to put our archers over here. So they could immediately start firing on the adventurers who disturb our king. Add a couple slashers in here. Whoops, why are you way up there? What did you do in life to die on a pillar? Oops. And a couple spearmen outside to cut off their escape. Now skeletons aren't all that powerful depending on the strength of your team. I might give our king here the ability to call his subjects back to life, in which the players are fighting the king. They manage to take out the skeletons quickly, then have the king have either a layer ability or a legendary action or something in order to be able to call his followers back. I would give exceptions to that. Obviously, if you've got a cleric in the party and they do destroy undead, then the minions would not be able to come back. But a few options there. I think I'm generally happy with this. I mean, it's a pretty quick build. I don't know how long we've been going for, but it did not take super long. This would be a nice fun encounter. So how would I set this up? I would probably say that our players need to find something in order to continue on their adventure. Maybe it's this amulet that this guy's wearing, or something that is in his sarcophagus, and that would give us means for getting them here and disturbing this guy's long rest. Have it just be a straight up trap for them, and have it so if they disturb the altar, then that's perfectly fine. But we could take a nice, beautiful skull treasure chest or two and put them back behind. It's the king's treasure. So if a player were to go and open one of these chests, it would trigger the encounter, wake him from his slumber, to destroy the infidels. Another thing I would really like to see is for some of this stuff to be able to sit between tiles. I would love there to be an option where I can set this between these two, because again, I love symmetry. So instead, I would probably put 2 down, just for my own sanity. And as they come up, players would see that there are treasure chests there, or if they wanted to just open the sarcophagus itself, they would have that option. A lot of these props have interactive things to them, so that's kind of cool. You can allow them to do that. I'm not sure what they're going to have in terms of, sound effects or things like that that you can trigger actions to. I know that they have cutscenes. I have not played with cutscenes at all. I have no idea what cutscene mode is, but I would assume that you would be able to set something to happen. So for example, if your players say, hey, I opened the sarcophagus, you could go into a cutscene where the sarcophagus opens, ominous music plays, and all of the monsters begin to appear around them. Again, I don't know for sure if that's the plan is, but that is what I would do if I had these options, and that's what it looks like will be available just from my own personal guesses looking at these options that are available. So let's just grab a couple heroes quick. Again, there's not a whole... there's a good selection for beta for sure, but being able to import your own things. Imagine being able to go onto Hero Forge and make your own custom character, download the STL, and upload it into TaleSpire. Paint it up in some way and have your own custom character token in here. Or if you know someone who can 3D model, or if you're part of one of the many 3D modeling communities that I am, grabbing your Tiamat or grabbing your dragons from one of the various Kickstarters and Patreons that do really awesome modeling, and being able to use those 3D files not just for printing but in your online games as well. That kind of stuff is super cool to me. I would love to see it. Hang on, this is an interesting thing. Turning on clipping allows you to clip tiles into other tiles by holding down Shift. This could break the game and is therefore not recommended. So we're just gonna turn that off for now. I don't know what's going on with this wizard here, but I guess it's weird if you try to pull things off of the edge of the map. So there we go. Let's get out of build mode here. So let's take a look at some of the other stuff that we've got available. So, atmosphere. We do have some options. Darkness. You can set the time of day. So let's make this real ominous and let's drag these shadows down. To greet our adventurers. So move into dusk. Just enough light to be able to see these shadows. For music, there's actually quite a bit of music already available. And I do believe you have the option of changing up audio and stuff with cutscenes and things as well. So let's go with something. Haunted Ruins, hey! Got our ambiance. Got our sound effects. We've got our setting sun or our blood moon, whatever you want. We've got our adventurers ready to go. Now all we would need to do is generate an invite code to send to our players. We can send it over to them, drop them in. Here we would be able to give particular players a permission to move their token. So for example, the Barbarian, I could go into player permissions and assign that to a specific person who was in the campaign. As I'm the only one here, that's the only one it shows. Switch between the different boards. Obviously all of our atmospheric settings are here. I don't know what this does at all. And we can look at our board from the view of a player. I do wish, one thing I can't find a way to do yet, I do wish we could, there we go, raise the camera a little bit so we can do some screenshots and stuff of this ominous place. I would also like to know if there's a way to remove the UI so I can take screenshots. I do not know if there is a way to do that. That is not it. Let's try some F keys. There's a screenshot, but I think that was just Steam. Alright, does not look like there's a way to remove the UI yet. And there's also no key map, so can't tell. But you can also set up your initiative on your different characters. For an exploration mode, people can move around normally. Cutscene mode obviously lets you... oh, there we go. I wonder if that's saved somewhere on my computer now. I'll have to go and see if I can find it. I have no idea what any of this is. I'm just messing with stuff. All right. A couple other things here real quick. We do have dice that are available. You can actually roll on the table. Okay. I don't know why everything's all blurry right now. But it lets you toss things around and see. I wonder if you can like knock things over with it. Doesn't look like it. I think there should be a way to... There we go. So, if we say you're doing a fireball, you want to do 8d6. You can click all the dice that you want and then take them from here, grab them and toss them in, which shows you the full 32. Simple right click, right click, remove, takes them away. If you're rolling with advantage, 1, 2. $20 and an 8. So yeah, I think it's probably good for now. I'm sure there are lots more stuff that we can dive into. We haven't gone over. I mean, there's hotbars that you can look at. When you're in build mode, you can actually set some different planes for the camera to be on. You can build on top of things. There's a lot that I haven't even dove into yet. This is literally my first day playing around with this. And like the second day it's been available for anybody. So still learning, still getting everything figured out. But hopefully this was a cool intro to what TaleSpire is. It is in beta right now, but up until a couple days ago you could still purchase the game. I think they're having some trouble replenishing Steam keys, so it might be a little bit before you can buy again and potentially get into the beta or early access. And some of that might just be Kickstarter stuff. So you could check out the Kickstarter, which is completed quite a while ago, but check it out for more information. And I'm certainly going to be posting some more builds and stuff on the channel as well, so you guys can check it all out. But until next time, great talking with you all again. Hope you're all staying safe during this interesting time in our world. And we will see you guys next time.